Chase Masterson left, Ed Gross middle, and Mark A. Altman right discussed the history of Star Trek at New York Comic Con 2017. Credit Marshall HonorofSpa.com. Star Trek is a dramatic, exciting saga with a diverse cast of characters that's taken more than 50 years to unfold. As it turns out, so is the story behind making Star Trek. The 50-Year Mission, Thomas Dunn Books, 2016, by Ed Gross and Mark A. Altman, is a 12-volume doorstopper of a book that chronicles the oral history of Star Trek, from the first unsuccessful voyage of the Starship Enterprise under Capt. Pike to the latest adventures of Michael Burnham that currently stream on the digital channel CBS All Access. As it turns out, the franchise wasn't guaranteed to last a year, much less 50. I attended a panel about the history of Star Trek at New York Comic Con on October 5. Altman and Gross hosted the panel, and invited Chase Masterson, who played Lita on Deep Space Nine, along to offer her thoughts as a primary source. The 15 best ships on Star Trek, from VGER to the USS Vengeance. The panel didn't have a single unifying theme. Instead, the speakers spun yarns from every era of Trek. To their credit, Altman, Gross and Masterson did try to focus the discussion early on. They polled the audience to see how many fans wanted to talk primarily about the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager or Enterprise. The result was an almost total deadlock. Since Masterson was there, and Deep Space Nine is going through something of a resurgence right now, the adventures of Capt. Sisko and crew took center stage, at least for a little while. Gross explained that while serialized TV is the default today, it was a daring experiment back in the 90s. Trek writers and producers had to fight tooth and nail for continuity on The Next Generation, to say nothing of the ongoing missing episode and your lost structure of Deep Space Nine. Masterson, though, said that she and a lot of other cast and crew members knew that Deep Space Nine would have its day when technology caught up with its storytelling style. The show will go over better when people can watch it all at once, she remembers saying. Masterson also took some time to discuss how Star Trek has been a powerful force for social change, and how it prompted her to apply the show's message in real life. Taking inspiration from the Vulcan belief of IDIC, infinite diversity and infinite combinations, she founded the Pop Culture Hero Coalition to combat bullying in schools. The group is an anti-racism, anti-misogyny, pro-LGBT outfit that uses pop culture stories to teach kids, Masterson said. From Deep Space Nine, the conversation wound the clock back a few decades. The 1970s were a fallow period for Trek, which began with little of note aside from the uneven animated series and a very weird anti-drug PSA. During the decade, two high-profile Trek projects almost came to fruition, the first of which was a film called Planet of the Titans. The concept featured a time travel plot that sent the Enterprise crew back in time, sharing fire with early man, hence the Titans moniker. The most interesting thing about the film was the redesign of the Enterprise, which looks an awful lot like the more recent USS Discovery. The other project was a TV series known as Star Trek Phase 2. Fans have known about Phase 2 for decades, and they're still uncertain whether it would have been a worthy follow-up for the original series or a short-lived disaster. The show would have combined some of the original cast members with the new character XO and a full-blooded Vulcan replacement for Spock, as well as William Decker and Delia, who showed up in Star Trek the Motion Picture. What I learned by watching every Star Trek show and movie, in fact, Paramount's decision to make a feature film was what stopped Phase 2 in its tracks. The motion picture very nearly didn't happen, however. In May 1977, Paramount issued a statement to the Star Trek crew: "We don't believe there's a future in science fiction." 2 weeks later, Star Wars came out. The motion picture is a divisive film, as some fans adore its high-concept story and satisfying resolution, while others decry its lack of action and bloated runtime. Either way, it could have been much weirder. Early drafts featured Capt. Kirk punching an alien masquerading as Jesus Christ, Gross said. The movie's novelization, which Gene Roddenberry tackled himself, is full of bizarre tangents about sex and consciousness. In fact, although Roddenberry is rightfully remembered as the father of all things Star Trek, he wasn't necessarily always the best influence on anything past the original series, Gross and Altman argued. Gene was afraid that Paramount would take Trek away from him after the 70s, Gross said. Ultimately, though, Roddenberry got his own way, just as George Lucas got his own way with Star Wars. That control wound up hurting some of the early seasons of The Next Generation, in which Roddenberry insisted retreading original series stories with an extremely non-confrontational new cast. There wasn't much time left in the panel to discuss Voyager, but Gross did share one story about the infamous tension between the actors Kate Mulgrew and Jerry Ryan. The behind-the-scenes drama on the later seasons of Voyager was intense. Mulgrew felt that Ryan was usurping her position as the most important character in the show, particularly since the showrunners played up 7 of 9's sex appeal. It's no secret that Mulgrew took out a lot of her frustrations on Ryan, to the point where Ryan did not want to even show up on set. When Gross interviewed Mulgrew for his book, he wondered whether the actress would try to downplay her bad behavior. Instead, she was totally straightforward and apologetic, according to Gross. The two actresses aren't likely to be good friends anytime soon, but things have come a long way since the 90s. As the discussion ended, the three panelists looked toward Discovery, and how the new show might fit into the larger Star Trek canon. Masterson believed that its dark tone and serial nature took a lot of inspiration from Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine is about boldly going into ourselves, she said. What type of friend are we? What type of enemy are we? IDIC is Star Trek's most important theme today, she concluded. And yes, that is political. Follow us at space.com, Facebook and Google. Original article on space.com.